Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and in this episode we're taking a look at WWE Legends Series 17. And today we've got one of the key figures in this lineup here. This is a real legend right here. Today we're looking at the Dingo Warrior. Yeah, okay, technically it's the Ultimate Warrior, but really it's the Dingo Warrior. So yeah, let's talk about that real quick. So Mattel has already done tons upon tons of versions of the Ultimate Warrior, but this is the very first Dingo Warrior, and that's because the Dingo Warrior was Jim Hellwig's, really his first look in the company. Back then, he still had a mustache, so this is basically the prototype for the Ultimate Warrior, because really that Dingo Warrior gimmick wouldn't last too long. So this is arguably the earliest version of the Ultimate Warrior character we've ever gotten in action figure form. And not only that, as an added bonus here, we have an extra head that harkens back to the LJN action figure version of Ultimate Warrior. So there's a lot of really cool history in this Legends figure here. We're going to take a close look at him in 1 second, but I want to talk about the packaging real quick because I love the Legends packaging. I love the look of it. I love the colors. It's a throwback to when Mattel first started doing the Legends figures, which was basically this similar style packaging here. The one difference was that they weren't using that True Effects sculpting technology yet. So over the years, they have been re-releasing a lot of those characters they did back in the first lines, but really the sculpting is so much better and the painting is so much better because of the new technology that they have. I'm happy though that there's one thing that hasn't changed on these figures over the years, and that would be the artwork. And I really dig these illustrations, or they might really just be photos with some hatching on top. I'm not quite sure what the process is to make them, but I really love these illustrations on the packaging here. And you get the same thing here, by the way, on one of the sides of the box, and well, actually on both sides of the box, so you can't beat it. I just really like how this thing looks. The back of the packaging gives you a very nice bio that lets you know why the heck the Warrior looks as funny as he does here if you didn't already know. And again, it mentions that he was the Dingo Warrior, it talks about WCCW, and it's really cool to see them mentioned on the back of a toy because how often do you see them talked about in an action figure? You really don't. So that's how you know you're really getting deep into the Legends line because they are making some deep cuts here, and it doesn't get much deeper and weirder than the Dingo Warrior. Also on the packaging here, it lets you see who else is in WWE Legends Series 17, and that's the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, AJ Styles from his WCW debut, and the world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock. We'll be seeing a few more figures from that line as the week goes on, but for the meantime, let's go ahead now and get our Dingo Warrior / Ultimate Warrior out of the box and get him into the ring. Alright, and here is our Dingo Warrior loose. He's on the loose, he's on the wild. But before we start taking a close look at him, let me give you my initial thoughts on this toy. And I've got a lot of Ultimate Warrior figures, and anybody who watches this channel has seen a lot of them. You haven't seen all of them, but you've seen a lot of them. And I always tend to like the Ultimate Warrior toys for the most part, but I do usually have a few problems here and there, particularly with the likenesses. And this one was an oddity because, again, this is like super early prototype Ultimate Warrior. This is not even the Ultimate Warrior. This is the Dingo Warrior. So why did I want this one so much when it's so odd and weird looking? Well, that's kind of why I think I wanted it, because it is such a different style of warrior that we've ever seen. So let's just go ahead and start first and talk about that likeness on our Dingo Warrior. So what do we think about this Jim Hellwig head sculpt here? Well, honestly, I think it's one of the best ones they've done. So it is weird that he has the mustache. That's, basically exclusive only to the Dingo Warrior, but I actually think this is one of their better head sculpts. They've done some that have been good, some that have been not so good, a few that were very, very bad, but I think this looks very, very much like him. Like, it's really good. The teeth especially, the mouth, the grimace, like that's kind of, I think, what nails it for me is that grimace. But the eyes are there. Mustache is kind of fun too. But as far as like his features go, it's all there. It's all looking really good. It is kind of funny seeing Ultimate Warrior also with shorter hair. Like, look at this. His hair is so short compared to how it would be like a few years later. That's kind of crazy that, you've got Warrior here with medium length hair. That's wild. But no, I'm really liking this Warrior head sculpt here. And it is so different, so bizarre that it works for him. It's very nice, in the words of Borat. So what else can we talk about with this Warrior here? Well, how about the face paint? Because even that is different. This is, again, prototype Warrior, so he's got the face paint, but it's not quite what it will be a few years from when this figure is meant to be taking place in. You will notice there's a little bit of some paint splotching, unfortunately, on this side, so that's going to be something you want to watch out for when you try and buy this Warrior, especially if you find him in stores. Really take a close look at the paint. And I also say that because the mustache can be a problem. We've seen mustaches that look really bad with other figures, so I really urge you to examine your figures very, very carefully before making any solid purchases. Now, this Dingo Warrior, by the way, comes with a second head sculpt. Maybe it's time to put him on, we'll see. But yeah, this second head sculpt is actually a familiar one. We've seen this head sculpt before. So Dingo Warrior head, all new. This one here is a re-release, the one that's in my hand. We've seen it a bunch of times. But it looks good. I actually do like this warrior head. It's a fairly neutral version of him with a lot of hair. That's so much hair. But it works. This is a pretty decent one. I'm happy with this version of him here. And here's a closer look at our warrior head as well, just so you guys can see even more of the detail on him. And it's really good. They did a great job with this figure. I really like this face. I like the hair as well. Like, this is a good looking warrior. From some angles, you could almost argue it looks like Michael Hayes. I don't know if that's a bad thing. I don't know who's insulting who in that case. But it's a good warrior head sculpt. Definitely liking this one a lot. This is a pretty basic warrior outfit, and this is the warrior outfit that kind of lacks any of the panache that later warrior would have, because he's got silver boots. Like, those are as plain as you can get. Even these knee pads, those are beyond average and plain looking. But what does set this one apart here is that he still has his tassels. Yeah, you can't be a warrior of any kind without tassels. So these are cool. You can see he's got the shoulder tassels there, the tassels around his arms, and he also has tassels on his feet. And they are that same color as his outfit, the blue and the sort of orange that he has there, reddy orange, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, these are the tassels we've also seen first with the Ultimate Edition. So if you want to really, you can actually articulate them. So if you're doing figure photography, this is great because everything moves. You could have them look like they're running. You could have them just actually interacting with whatever you're doing with the pose. And I believe these probably do come out also. I'm not going to test it out because I got to hold my tripod here with one hand, but these probably are movable. But even if they're not, it doesn't matter. What matters most is they are articulated and can actually move around. That's really great. So let's talk articulation with our Ultimate Warrior here. Since he's just wearing nothing but trunks, I think it's going to be pretty easy to move him around. His head is ball jointed. His shoulders are ball jointed as well. These are mighty stiff out the box, so you can actually do the warrior chest pound. We've got the biceps that can swing around, and these are double jointed biceps, so those are not exclusive only to Ultimates. These are now to all Elite figures. We have the wrists that can bend and flex. We have the buck that can bend and move well pretty nicely. Waist is articulated. Legs fully articulated there. You've got also a thigh cut you can see on them, so you can do even little kicks. These knee pads he has on are kind of interesting because they actually, they look like they're bulky, but they're not. They're not too bad. You can actually get a good range of motion. We saw with the recent Legends Ken Shamrock that he had those big, thick pads, and that completely hindered his movement for a guy that really needed it. Warrior here, though, no problems. You can actually bend them just fine, because also the back of them is very, very slim. And the boots also can rotate, and the feet can move too. So every single point of articulation here is the way it should be. It is perfect. And it can move around just fine. So that's great for anybody doing figure photography, posing, or whatever you might need them to do. Now, as far as accessories go, I already mentioned the additional head sculpt, but this warrior also comes with 4 additional hands. You got a total of 6 hands, 3 pairs. So why don't we do some swaps right now and see how he looks. And just like that, our warrior has brand new hands and new head. So that's how he looks. So again, as we mentioned, I'm going to bring the warrior head now closer to you guys. You can see that this head is nothing we haven't seen before. It is very much a head that's been put with other releases in the past, but it is one of the better ones in my opinion. And that hair is just like the perfect 80s style wrestler, warrior hair especially. So if you're wondering now where this head sculpt comes from, this we know is basically is very similar to his LJN figure. His very first action figure ever, which was the WWF LJN figures. So it's kind of fun now to have it in this form. Now for me, I'm going to probably be sticking with the Dingo Warrior head because I just like it that much more. But this is really nice, and to have it with this outfit, like, it's very sharp. This looks good. I'm happy with it either way, and it's kind of fun that we have now, like, a modern version of his very first figure ever from the 80s. That's kind of fun. All right, let's do a few figure comparisons right now as well to show you how he scales up with some other WWE wrestlers, or in this case, we got a WCW wrestler here because we got ourselves a WCW Ric Flair. And how about an Elite Bret Hart? And there's a lot of color in this image right here. So, of course, Warrior will scale up just fine with anybody from WWE, no problems there. But that's basically the normal size, or I should say more average size wrestlers. But here's how he looks next to Keith Lee, bask in all of his glory. And also, here's how he looks next to Karrion Kross. So, looking just fine, scaling up with everybody with no issues. But how about we try a few other figures here? Why don't we try some of these AEW figures from Jazzwares? I've got a CM Punk over here. He's checking his time. And I've also got a Bryan Danielson. See if we can get his foot to stand up. Well, close enough. But yeah, if you don't already know, AEW figures from Jazzwares will scale up just fine with any Mattel WWE figures, Elite or Basic. So we'll get these guys out of the way, and I'll just give you my final thoughts on the Dingo Warrior here. And you know what? I'm actually really happy with this Dingo Warrior. As I've said in the past, I've gotten a lot of Ultimate Warrior figures already. So I was like, why do I want to add another one to my collection? But this one is really the most unique version, I think, of Warrior that you're ever going to get. I mean, it's the Dingo Warrior, for crying out loud. You've got mustache Jim Hellwig. To me, that's just like the coolest, weirdest thing ever. It's got a great head sculpt, really wonderful paint job, cool looking outfit, a good amount of accessories too. I mean, keep in mind, you're getting 6 hands and a second head. This is some pretty good value here for a figure. So yeah, I'm really excited about this guy here. But I will say this, with any of these Target figures, especially right now in this toy buying climate, you can probably wait for this guy to go on sale. And even right now, as I'm recording this video, I woke up on Sunday morning and he dropped down from $22.99 to $11.49. Don't know how long it's going to last, but either way, this series 17 just came out and he's already going down to half price. That is kind of crazy. So that's telling you something right now, that Mattel is at least currently overproducing some of these figures. So take advantage of that and get them on sale. Don't bother with full price, really don't. You can buy them at a cheaper price, so just wait, be patient and do it that way. But overall, yeah, now you get to see what he looks like. I think it's really, really great. I think you probably will too, but hey, let me know in the comments what you think about this Dingo Warrior. Is he worth adding to your collection, or are you gonna skip this guy? And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys here next time.